that. I don't know why. But I am one of the founders of United Patriots Arizona. And we are very excited to have you here tonight. We have a great lineup, a couple great speakers for you tonight, and a couple little other fun surprises. But I just wanted to start out with a little bit of housekeeping. So anybody that needs to use the restroom is right through this double doors here, just to the west. Straight through that is the restrooms. Obviously, emergency exits, you know where those are. North lots that way, west lots that way, depending on where you park. Tonight, what we'd like to do, the first night that we met in this facility was actually last week. Who was here last week for that meeting? Great, awesome. Who's here for the first time for a United Patriots meeting? Great, thanks for being here. We welcome you here. We hope you feel excited, comfortable, and ready to take some action and get this country back on track. There's a lot going on in our country right now. So we would like to start with a prayer. We do that every meeting, and I don't have anybody designated for that. Is there anybody here that would like to volunteer to offer the prayer? Brian, thank you.
Everybody will bow their heads. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, God, as patriots, as Americans, as fellow conservatives that care about this Constitution, Lord. Father, you tell us everywhere that we go that we're to put on the full armor of God and carry the sword of truth and the breastplate of righteousness. Father God, I pray that we would do that, that we would be afraid to ever speak with you and share it with others. That as we restore this nation, Father, that we also restore hearts to you, and that we continue to spread your word, and that we are all together and united in restoring this country and humbling ourselves and healing our land by turning back towards you.
Thank you, Brian. All right. I saw a couple of young people here. Who's our youngest person here tonight? Some little guys. Who knows the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you know the Pledge of Allegiance? You do? You want to come up here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Yeah? All right, so let's all go ahead and stand up, and this young man is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Charlie, thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Good job. All right, let's give him a round of applause. That's great. All right, so another thing that we do for every meeting is we like to acknowledge anybody that is here in attendance who is running for office, no matter what that office might be. So anybody that's running for public office, if you'd like to stand up, and then we'll just have you, just your name and what you're running for, and we'll just do that here real quick. Brian Mache.
Hey guys, my name is Brian Mache. I'm running for governor of Arizona in 2022.
Thanks, Brian. Matt Salmon.
Yeah, Matt Salmon, run for governor. Brian's a good guy.
Thanks for being here, Matt. Oh, sorry.
I'm Charlotte Gala. I'm running for Chandler School Board.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Charlotte Gala.
Yeah, it's like hollow.
Oh, great. I think I butchered your name a few weeks ago, so that's, I apologize. But, all right, anybody else running for office? No? Great, well, thank you for being here. So for those that are here for the first time, just really quickly, I'll be very brief on this, but the history of our group, what we're doing, why we're doing it. A small group of neighborhood guys got together before the 2020 election, knowing how things were probably going to go either way, no matter what happened, who won. We just got together and decided we would meet on a weekly basis, talk about current events, prepare kind of a quick reaction type force if something did happen, so we'd be ready for that. And that has grown into what we are today. And probably about 2 or 3 months into that, we had Shane Krauser who moved into our neighborhood, and he heard what we were doing, and he's absolutely shot adrenaline into the arm of this movement, this group, so we appreciate Shane. And you'll get to hear from him in just a little bit, but he's really kind of helped us step this up. And our goal is to take this statewide and then hopefully nationwide. So one of the things that I would invite you to do is think about everybody that's here tonight. If there's one person in your life that maybe you can bring next time. And it doesn't have to be somebody that agrees with you politically, exactly. It can be someone on the opposite side of the aisle, for that matter. Because obviously we don't want to be an echo chamber. We want to be an organization, a movement that actually is bringing in people from all sides, denominations, beliefs, etc. Because who doesn't want freedom? More freedom and less government, right? I think we all want that, right? Yes? No? I think we all do. So the more people that we get here, the more we'll get that message out, and the more hope that we'll give to people so that they have an outlet to express some of that frustration that a lot of us are feeling right now. I don't know about you, but this gives me an opportunity to do. You know, and I forget who it is, one of the podcast guys, but I think it's Seth Keshel, actually. Maybe not, but he says, if not you, then who? Right? So if we don't take action, then who's going to do it? And this isn't for us necessarily, it's for the generations that come after us. So think about that, who you can bring, who you can invite to the next meeting. And we want to fill this place up, and then we want to move into an auditorium here on site, on campus, fill that up, and then we'll move into a bigger stadium for our weekly meetings. That's the goal, right? So anybody that is not on the current email distribution list, if you go to the United Patriots website, it's www.unitedpatriots.az.com. There's a subscribe button. You just put your name, phone number, email address in there, and you'll get our emails. We've been having some issues with emails. I know some of you might be a little bit frustrated because you're getting so many in your inbox, but our open rate is not where I thought it would be using MailChimp. I don't know if there's a better system to use, but Proton Mail definitely was going to junk and spam folders. MailChimp is as well, but we are in the process of working that out and trying to come up with a more effective way of doing that. Who's getting the emails? I'm assuming everybody here, right? Okay. So if you would like to receive those emails, if you're not getting them, go to our website, UnitedPatriotsAZ.com. Just sign up there, the subscribe button, and you'll get the notices for our meetings. And then one other thing for donations, we are obviously not making a lot of money doing this, absolutely no money whatsoever. No money that we receive in donations goes to me personally, or Shane, or JoJo. We dump it right back into the organization and this program. And the money that we get each week from your donations pays for this room and anything else that we need to be doing. So your donations are very welcome. Last week, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to. We received just about $1,000 from you all being here. So thank you for that. And that will get us through about 4 or 5 meetings. So that's wonderful, and we appreciate that contribution and that sacrifice that you made. So tonight, right around 8 o'clock or so, my daughter will start the donation bins around, and if you feel so inclined, go ahead, and if not, that's okay. We still want you here every week, okay? All right. Just really quick before I turn it over to a couple quick speakers for you, I just wanted to share with you that the United Patriots Arizona, I hope that you see this as another arrow in your quiver. You know, this isn't the end-all be-all. We don't have everything, but we do have the patriotism, we do have the Constitution expertise, and we are a movement that is going to grow and expand throughout the state. But just when I was a police officer in Southern California, you know, I went through many, many years of training, continual training for that matter. But what's the purpose of all that training? What's your thought? Why does the military train? Why does law enforcement train? Muscle memory. Muscle memory, exactly. So the more that we come to meetings like this, the more gatherings we come to, the more people we talk to, the more interactions we have, the more knowledge we gain from Shane and the Constitution classes that he puts on, the more opportunities that we're going to have then to defend in that charter. And we're not going to stress about it. We're not going to be worried about it when it comes up in conversation or when somebody asks you to get on camera and do a quick interview, because they saw you walk out of a Patriot meeting. They want to know what you're there for. Okay, that happens. And the more knowledge we gain, and the more understanding we have, more education we gain, the easier it is for us to do that. And we don't get stumped when we're in those conversations with people that don't believe what we believe. We're able to talk through it. We don't get flustered. So think of this group as that. And as Shane mentioned last time, the education platform is the foundation of this group. We teach on the Constitution so that we can become constitutional advocates, each one of us. Our motto, our mission is to educate constitutional advocates one patriot at a time. And that's why you're here tonight, because you want to have that knowledge and that understanding. But there's also folks that want to be working on border security. There's people that want to be working on voter integrity. There's folks that want to run for office. There's people that want to just get out there and protest peacefully. They want to get their voices heard. So as we grow as a group and as you determine what it is that you feel best doing, use this as your platform, and then those subgroups and those subcommittees that we will establish, that'll be an opportunity for you to serve and to go out and do more. Okay, so don't be shy, don't be hesitant about starting a subgroup or a subcommittee within United Patriots. And we invite you to do that. The only thing we ask is that you talk with Shane, myself, or Joe, and we can just make sure that we have that organized as kind of a downstream of the parent group. Does that make sense? So find out what it is that you like best, what it is that you do best. You don't have to be a Shane Krauser and stand up here for an hour and talk eloquently like he does and excite everybody for an hour. That might not be your thing, that might not be your talent. You might be an organizer, you might be a doer, whatever it is, we need you in this movement because this is our opportunity. This is our generation's revolution to make sure that this country is not lost to communism, to socialism, and to global politics and the New World Order. We are here to make sure that the United States of America stays a sovereign country, right? And this constitutional republic that we have remains for our children and our grandchildren. That is the purpose, that's why we're here. There are people that are very nervous. I was talking with Craig before the meeting. There's a lot of folks that are very uncertain about what's going on right now. This gives us an opportunity to get out and do something. And we can give hope to other people. And this will give hope to other people. So we ask you to think about that and invite somebody next week and let's fill up this room, okay? So tonight before, I had to read you this one quote. I heard somebody online mention this and I got a good chuckle out of it and I wanted to share it with y'all. But it goes like this, it says, is the United States of America still the home of the free and the brave? Or is it the home of the sheep and the slave? So think about that. Are we sheep and slaves, or are we still the home of the free and the brave? My thought on that is we are still the home of the free and the brave. We always will be. That is our purpose. So before we turn the time over to Shane, we had a couple folks that we wanted to give 5 minutes to. We've got Kirk Evans, who is president of U.S. Law Shield. We're going to have him come up here and speak for about 5 minutes. And then after he's done, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Kirk Evans. I'm in from Houston, Texas, and so now you're all going, who is this guy? Why is he here? About a week ago, I had a coworker of mine send me this video, and he said, you got to see this. And he sends me this video, and it's Shane Krauser speaking at one of your events. So I watched this video, and I was like, hey, I'd like freedom. This is good. I like the Constitution. This is really good. So I asked, hey, where are these guys from? He said, Arizona. I was like, I really like Arizona. So what we have is a legal defense for self-defense program. We started as a firearms legal defense program for a small monthly fee. We will defend you start to finish in any civil or criminal action if you're a gun owner or use any legal weapon. I'm going to cut it short right there. I'm a lawyer by trade. Lawyers make terrible salesmen, and nobody believes lawyers in the first place. All I'm going to say is thanks very much. We want to be a part of your organization. We got a table over there today, and we look forward to doing many great things in the future. I hope that wasn't too quick. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Kirk. All right, we'd like to invite Sin Ladd, who I was just talking with her before the meeting, and I think you're going to be really impressed by her and what she has to offer.
I like your boots. Thank you. Aren't those great? Kind of my, like, I can't say that four-letter word up here, my kicking boots. I was not planning on this, you guys. We were just talking over there, but real quickly, I am a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I'm also a firearm owner. I didn't come into this from a long history. This kind of all started for me back in the early 2000s, and in 2013, I had a horrible car accident, realized how vulnerable I was as a single woman out there, and really got serious about firearm training, and became a firearms instructor. Now, I live in Arizona, brought my mom down here, and I focus on training women how to shoot, how to defend themselves, how to get over, oh, I just need to be nice. You know, that man is coming up to talk to you, and you have no idea, but he's like, hi, lady, what are you doing? You know, I think I need to talk to you out here by your car. And they use all sorts of techniques. I was getting gas at a gas station, and I had two strange guys approach me by complimenting my truck, and then they separated, and one started to go one way, and another started to go another way, and thank God for my training, I knew what they were doing, and it was a diversion tactic. And I was able to get into my vehicle, and I about ran the other guy over, and I did not get gas there, but I'm going to tell you, my little Iowa farm girl was saying, be nice. They're just being friendly. Don't be rude. You don't want to hurt their feelings. And ladies, I'm going to tell you, you got to get over it. You can be nice to your husband. Be nice to your son. Be nice, well, maybe to your son-in-law or whatever. But your days of being nice have got to end. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Because you need to be able to protect yourself, whether it's with a firearm or something else. But our world is changing. It is a violent world out there. Going to the grocery store can be very, very violent. And so, obviously, I love my friends over here at U.S. Law Shield. Husbands and wives, you need to have coverage for yourselves for this. And wives, you need to know how to pick up that firearm and be able to use it, because they're going to take your husband out first. I'll just tell you that right now. If you have daughters, I teach them an NRA program called Refuse to be a Victim, and I do that for free for college-bound students. So, anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. She's impressive. So if you'd like to get some more information from her, she's got some cards over there at the table. So please stop by and chat with her before you take off tonight. All right. So who's ready for Shane Krauser? Yeah. All right, so just real quick, for those of you that are not familiar with Shane Krauser, I just wanted to just read a little quick bio here on him. But we're fortunate to have Shane here as one of our family members, as I mentioned earlier. Shane is arguably the most dynamic speaker and educator on liberty and freedom. He's been called by many the best instructor of the Constitution in the country. A few details on Shane. He was a trial attorney for 14 years. He taught constitutional law for over 15 years in 3 different Arizona colleges. He taught at the Phoenix and Glendale Police Academies for more than 10 years. He's a radio talk show host for 3 years. He toured and shared the stage with Glenn Beck for 18 months. He testified in front of the U.S. Congress and has over 2,000 speaking engagements on liberty around the world, including Mexico, Peru, and Canada. So please welcome Shane Krauser.
How's everybody doing? Now, I'm excited to be with you. Who here has never been involved in an event where I've spoken?
No, I've never been
Has never? Oh, no. So Congressman Salmon, tonight has a short memory. Because we've been involved in a lot of events together, Matt.
I thought you were
I know
saying,
you did. I know you did. Who has never been involved in an event where I've been there? Or who's never heard me speak? Raise your hand. See, I'm a lawyer, so I had to get it out in a really confusing way, right, in asking the question. Guys, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. First of all, though, before we get started, those of you that have served in the U.S. military, or you've served in law enforcement or as a firefighter, will you stand up? We want to recognize you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your service. And it's so awesome to have U.S. Law Shield here. You know, they're based out of Texas, but they're a national organization, and just love what it is that they're doing. We've got some big events in the making over the next several months. In fact, we're putting together a Second Amendment event that will rock your world. It's going to be a lot of fun. Not just people talking, engaging, and having a lot of fun together, but empowering the citizen to go out and be confident in what it is that they do. And I saw that she was wearing cowboy boots. Guys, I don't have the nerve to wear cowboy boots anymore on stage. I'm suffering a little bit. Let me tell you what happened. I went to Cottonwood to do an event. And when I was there, I started talking about riding horses and all that sort of stuff, and I had my cowboy boots on. And one guy stands up, he says, "Dude, you're no cowboy." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Your boots are way too clean." So that was the last time I wore cowboy boots at a public event. But listen, what we're going to do, you're going to hear from the former Congressman Matt Salmon, who's also running for governor. You're going to hear from him in just a little bit. But I want to just spend a few minutes talking with you. Last week was just awesome, and I talked with a number of people, and you had some phenomenal questions. And the goal here is on the education side is not just to come in and repeat what you hear. I mentioned last week that we could spend the next 52 weeks together, coming together every single week, and we could talk about something different related to the Constitution, related to freedom. But of course, we'll have some overlap along the way as we do this. But the goal is to really empower you, to teach you how to articulate these principles. At times, we're even going to have debates where we bring you up. And we'll talk about a couple of different issues, and you'll prepare and come up, and you'll banter with whoever it is that's up here and be subject to questions. The idea is to come together in this environment and recognize that we're all fighting for the same thing. We're all fighting for more freedom and less government. That's the idea. So I want to talk to you, though, about this idea of the U.S. Constitution and how it relates to state constitutions. Now, I probably had 3 different people ask me that question last week, and I want to talk a little bit about it, especially as we have various candidates coming in who are running for governor. I want to talk about that. But let me ask you this first. What is the purpose of government?
Protect freedom.
To protect the rights of the people. Right? What is the purpose of the Constitution? Now, when I refer to the Constitution, I'm referring to the U.S. Constitution, because every state has a Constitution as well, right? Every state has their own. Arizona has a Constitution that is independent of the U.S. Constitution. In fact, the governor takes an oath. Does the governor of Arizona just take an oath to the U.S. Constitution? No, he takes an oath to the Arizona Constitution. So I want to talk about how they interrelate. But we've got the U.S. Constitution. What is the purpose of the U.S. Constitution? Limit. What'd you say? Limit. It's to limit. Okay, it's to limit government. Talk to me a little bit more. Right? It's not a government, or excuse me, it's not a document that gives the federal government the authority to do whatever they want. If we wanted the federal government to be able to do whatever they wanted, there would be no need for a constitution. You just say do whatever you want. But it's a document that's designed to limit what those in government can ultimately do. Is it designed to restrain the people? No. It's designed to restrain the government. But that's the idea behind this document. So we have the idea of limited power. What else is it designed to do? What's its purpose?
Structure the federal government its responsibilities with respect to...
Say that a little louder.
It structures the federal government and it outlines the responsibilities of the services it performs for the nations within the republic.
Excellent, thank you for that. So it outlines specifically what each branch of government is permitted to do. So what are the 3 branches of government, real quick? LEJ, I heard someone say it, right? What is it? Good. Legislative, executive, judicial. If I wanted to see, looking at this Constitution that's designed to limit power, and I wanted to see specifically what each branch of government is permitted to do, where would I look with regard to the legislative branch?
Article 1.
Article 1. Where would I look with regard to executive branch? Article 2. And with regard to the judicial branch? Guys, this is not a difficult document. Lawyers want to make it difficult, but this is a document designed for we the people, right? It's designed for an average school grade kid to be able to understand the idea, but we make it much more complicated than it really is. Those of you that weren't here last week, let me just expound a little bit. So the Constitution, ratified in 1788, has 7 articles. There are 7 articles. Article 1, legislative. Article 2, executive. Article 3, judicial. As if you understand that, you're way ahead of the ball game. Because what happens is, when I see the president doing something, I can ask the question, where in Article 2 does he have the authority to do that? I see the judicial branch hearing certain types of cases, and I can ask the question, where in Article 3, J, where in Article 3, judicial branch, do they have the authority to hear that type of case? Same thing with the legislative branch, right? So I've got limits on what each of those branches can do. This is very simple. I go and see what piece of legislation the legislative branches, and remember, when I say legislative branch, I'm not referring to the Arizona legislature. Bound by a different document, Arizona. I mean, they're bound by the U.S. Constitution as well, right? But the federal Constitution is designed to deal with the federal government for the most part, okay? So I've got those 3 things, LEJ, and then I have an Article 4, and Article 4 says what?
States. Relationships among the states.
It guarantees every state a Republican form of government. Republican with a small r, all of those people, and none of you are fragile snowflakes, but I've heard that. What do you mean, a Republican form of government? No, it is Republican with a small r, and it's not my word. Be mad at George Washington, right? It's a Republican form of government, which is not a party. It's a form of government. It's not a democracy, it's not a monarchy, it's not an oligarchy, it's not anarchy. It's a Republican form of government designed to do what? Protect even the minority. So there are really 2 components when we talk about a Republican form of government. One idea is we elect individuals who represent us, and the other side of it is that when it comes to protecting individuals, we protect even the minority. The majority may say, this is the way it should be, and there's one odd man out. A Republican form of government says we protect the little guy, even in the face of the majority. Democracy, as Thomas Jefferson said, is the most vile form of government out there. In fact, there's never been a democracy that has sustained as a democracy. Democracies always evolve into oligarchies. Always. Right? Monarchies almost always evolve into oligarchies. Anarchy. I think it's interesting, yeah, people talk about anarchy. It's never happened. So when you create revolutions, individuals go out there and then things get sticky, and the very entity that started the revolution steps up to solve, hey, I'll solve the problem, and now you have an oligarchy. So really, historically, we have 2 different forms of government that have sustained, oligarchy and a Republican form of government. Article 4 is designed to guarantee every state a Republican form of government. Article 5 pertains to the amendment process. I want to change the Constitution, I want to amend it. The 5 talks about process. Article 6, I love that you're taking notes, by the way. For you, those of you coming, man, come in and take notes as we walk through this, because you'll be empowered by this information. Article 6 simply says, exactly right, supremacy clause. This is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And Article 7 just talks about ratification. All right? So I have a U.S. Constitution. It's designed to limit authority. It's designed to specifically tell the legislative, executive, judicial branch what they're permitted to do. Maybe a different way of thinking about this is a Shaneism. So when you quote this, you better put my name behind it. I'm teasing. Right? And here's what the Constitution is. It's a complex maze of booby traps designed to stop tyranny. Now you like that? A complex maze of booby traps designed to stop tyranny. So here's the question, though. Well, Shane, there's tyranny. It's happening, Shane. There's tyranny going on. There's government oppression, government stepping in, gray suits in D.C., stepping up and running the show, bypassing the legislative process, signing executive orders, making decisions in direct violation of at least what textually the Constitution says. So, Shane, if it's a document that's designed to stop tyranny, what's the problem? Anybody have any thoughts on that? If it's a complex maze of booby traps designed to stop tyranny, why are we experiencing tyranny today?
Because we let it happen.
Mindless politicians.
We let it happen. Good. Yes?
We're not following the Constitution.
We're not following the document. Good.
There's nobody manning the booby traps.
What? Wait, say that again?
There's nobody manning the booby traps.
Did we have a discussion beforehand? No, we did not. That was well said. Anything else that you'd add to that? Yes, Steve.
We, the people, are not holding the representatives accountable from election to election.
Okay? And as a result of that,
Well, they're free to do whatever they want to do.
Okay,
We're
yeah.
not stopping them.
yes, right. Ralph, what were you
So
saying?
what did she say? Sorry, I missed what it was.
She said no one's banning the booby traps.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Ralph, are you with me on this? Are you with her on that?
Yeah.
That was, yeah. So here's the idea. We can talk about we want freedom, but if the booby trap of the Constitution is not engaged, it becomes, it's an empty charter. It's just parchment paper. That's what it becomes. So it's about people engaged in the traps. So for example, Article 1, Section 1 says all legislative powers herein granted are vested in who?
House and Senate.
In the House and Senate. Let me repeat that. This is Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted are vested in the legislative branch, right? The two branches, that are the two houses, right? So, what happens when, and we talked to, someone mentioned this last week, we've got thousands of bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. that make laws that are imposed upon us. And when we go and talk to someone in the legislature, we say, we don't like this. And what do they say? Well, I didn't do it. The legislative branch did it. That bureaucracy did it. Now, I'm a textualist. I'm an originalist. And when I look at the thousands of bureaucracies that exist, is there any room in the Constitution for that? For a bureaucracy to create a law?
No.
There's none. There's none. And notice that the word in Article 1, Section 1 says what? Vested. Vested. What's vested mean? It means I'm given the authority. Can you give away something that's been vested in you?
No.
You cannot. So what do we have individuals in D.C. doing within the legislative branch? They're being given authority by virtue of Article 1, Section 1, and they in turn have given that authority elsewhere to a bureaucracy. In fact, back in 2012, 2013, Obama's in office, and there was a Jackson Lee. What's Sheila Jackson Lee goes on national TV and says, listen, we don't have time to play around. We don't have time to play around. So we're going to put together, mind you, this is a member of the legislative branch, elected by the people. And she, on national TV, says, we don't have the time to play around. We are in the process of putting executive orders together that we will in turn pass on to President Obama for signing. Okay? Consider that. And then consider, I don't remember what State of the Union address it was, but President Obama got up. By the way, I'm an equal opportunity hater. Republican, Democrat, you screw it up, we're going to call you out. I'm just saying. Right? So thank you for that, Don. But he has a State of the Union address. And he goes on and says, hey, we'll work with the legislature. But if they don't want to work with us, I have a pen and a phone. Does anybody remember the response to that? To the pen and the phone? What happened when he said that?
They clapped, didn't they?
There was a standing ovation. There was a standing ovation. So my point in talking about this is we've gone far away. We're electing individuals that are not being held accountable. They're just doing whatever they want. Because if you had done something like Sheila Jackson Lee said that back when we were putting this document together, late 1700s, early 1800s, you would not have lasted long. But what do we do today? We elect them and re-elect them and elect them again. Right? It's the old adage. Individuals in politics are concerned about two things: elections and re-elections. That's what they're concerned about. So it's those sorts of things. Hey, a Sheila Jackson Lee can do what? Hey, listen, I'm doing my best for you the people. I'm doing my best. And she can go back to her constituents and say, see what I did? I put these executive orders for you. And if you have enough people that buy into it, we've got problems on our hands. That's why we're coming together, folks, is to empower one another, to educate one another. And I'm telling you, you don't need a majority, you don't even need a close to a majority to go out there and really create momentum. But I will say this. If you are really interested in winning back freedom, in restoring the Constitution. Number one, understand this is going to take time. It will not happen overnight. It will not happen within a year or two. It takes time. We're talking about something that's been created today that took 100 years to put us where we're at today. It's going to take time. But here's the other essential ingredient. I want you to listen to me very closely. If we are going to win back freedom, we have to come together. Edmund Burke, who was a huge influencer with the Founding Fathers, said this: if you want to restore public virtue, if you want to restore freedom, you must build platoons of people all over the region where you wish to see that restoration. It will not happen with individuals sitting at home and watching Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and all that stuff. Okay? It won't happen that way, right? We've seen liberty movements that have risen up where individuals come together and they say things like, I'm mad as heck and I'm not going to take it anymore. And they talk about all the problems that are going on. And then they go home for the next 6-7 days and do what? Watch the media, scare the heck out of them and say, man, this is what's going on, this is what's going on. And then they come back 7 days later and say what? I'm mad as heck and I'm not going to take it anymore. Right? It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And you guys have already heard, last week you heard my little spiel on the media. I haven't watched a media program, Fox News, CNN, any media program going on 7 years, and I haven't listened to a radio program. I won't do it because I know what it's about. I know how the game's played. Thank you, Steve. I see you there. I see you, brother. but because the media is designed to bring people to the table, that in turn generates revenue, as you can go to advertisers to bring money to the table. That's what's really going on. And so, when you talk about this Constitution, it's designed to limit. Now, who's the boss?
We are.
We are. We are. It's called We the People, right? And so when we look at the Declaration of Independence, and our Constitution, can anybody talk about, just for a moment, how do they relate to one another?
The Declaration of Independence creates a philosophical, political system as well as a listing of all the egregiousness of the king on the people. The Constitution is a fulfillment of the federal system that our founding fathers put for the colonies to interact with each other.
Love it. Nailed it. Let me repeat. That was very well said. So, yeah, very well. Those of you that heard us, that was great. He said that the Declaration of Independence, again, 1776, it's a philosophical document. It's outlining an ideal. Here's where we want to go. And then it says the Constitution, which comes about almost 20 years later, or over 20 years later, says it's the fulfillment of that promise. It's designed to put that ideal in motion. So oftentimes, what do we hear people say? Oh, the founders, they were racist. They were slave owners. They did this, this, and this. Like they talked about this ideal, but they were hypocrites. No. The Declaration of Independence is designed to be nothing more than an ideal. Here's the ideal we are striving after. And the Constitution, as was said, it's designed to be the fulfillment of that promise. Maybe another way of looking at it is, the Declaration of Independence is what those gentlemen and ladies were willing to die for. And the Constitution is what they were willing to live for. Can we get that dynamic in motion? Now, we've had many battles in this country, injustices that we fought for. But here's what I think is interesting. It's been a constant spiral upward with some ebbs and flows towards more freedom and maybe not so much less government. But we've seen individuals liberated. Right? Look at the women's rights movement. Right? Elizabeth Cady Stanton comes together and says, man, we're fixing this issue. And then you have people like Frederick Douglass, right? At one point was a slave. And by the way, interesting, black individual becomes one of the country's greatest advocates for the Constitution. Black individual who was enslaved. And yet, I find it interesting, Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, women's rights, who showed up? Frederick Douglass. It's people coming together and saying, wherever there's an injustice, I will be there. And I love that the founders identified, as was mentioned, the Declaration of Independence outlines about 27 grievances. 27 grievances. And as you read the Constitution in conjunction with the Declaration, what you will see is that the Constitution deals with every single one of those grievances is dealt with in the Constitution, right? And things are added. But they experience injustices and say, this will not happen again. But it goes back to we the people, right? The Declaration of Independence talks about the philosophy, right? What is it? What's one of this whole idea of the Declaration? What does it speak to in terms of inherent liberty? What does it talk about? What does it say? Speaks of natural rights of the individual. Yes?
And they're inalienable.
They're inalienable. Can't be taken away. They exist by virtue of our humanity. Right? God-given. Right? And yet we have individuals rising up and saying, well, hey, no, government's the grantor of rights. The piece of paper is the grantor of rights. And that's simply not the case. So, let's just talk for a brief moment. And by the way, those of you who keep coming, we're going to begin to step into kind of some more formal training in the coming weeks and months, where we'll outline this stuff where you'll understand it very, very well. Because I know sometimes when you start to hit on these ideas, you're like, oh, okay, well, wait a second, Declaration, how's that fit in with the Constitution? We'll repeat that, but we'll go through some things where you will understand it very, very well and be able to articulate it. But let's talk. I mean, we're going to have several candidates coming in and who are running for governor. If they are a state actor, right, they're leading the state of Arizona, why do they take an oath to the U.S. Constitution? If they're, right, they're not in the executive branch within that federal government. They're not moving laws in the legislative branch within, right, at the federal level. So why does a governor take the oath to the U.S. Constitution?
Supreme law.
Okay, it's the supreme law. Yeah, anyone else want to add to that? Yes.
Accountability.
State that are part of the Republic.
Say that again?
State that are part of the
Yeah,
Republic.
yeah. Very good. So part of a republic. What did you say, Brian?
Public accountability.
Public accountability. Good. So listen, if we have a governor, has anybody seen what DeSantis is doing in Florida? Right? Do you think he understands the U.S. Constitution? Yes, he does. Because what he's saying is, federal government, I understand what you're permitted to do. Hey, legislature, here's what, hey, executive, which is really where he's standing strong. Hey, executive branch, this is what you are permitted to do. You are now attempting to do something that's impacting the citizenry of Florida. And you are not permitted to do that. We're stepping, we're holding the line. We're holding the line. Can you imagine if we had a governor like that in Arizona? Can you imagine? Guys, this is where we win. This is where we win instead of going along to get along. Is having someone hold the line. See, that's why you need a governor or any other individual that's elected into office in Arizona that understands the U.S. Constitution, even though they're also bound by the Arizona Constitution, which is a little bit more flexible, but also delineates certain rights that we have, not as a reminder to us, as a reminder to them, right? And delineates what sort of authority they have. So they're bound by the Arizona Constitution, but we have to have individuals who understand the U.S. Constitution. So that when the federal government attempts to do something outside the scope of their power, you have individuals standing up and saying, no, can't do it. Has anybody ever heard of this concept? Matt and I were talking about this a little earlier, which is a concept that we need to see used more often. Nullification.
Yes.
Who's heard of that term, nullification? Yeah. So nullification is the idea where, hey, listen, I've taken an oath to the U.S. Constitution, and I'm not undermining the U.S. Constitution. I'm undermining what you, federal government, are attempting to do as you go about impacting what we're doing in Arizona. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This whole idea. Guys, this is important. And I believe, you've heard me say this before. Government over the last 100 years, regardless of the administration, has grown larger or smaller? Larger. With every administration. I mean, I know there's a lot of Trump folks here. I didn't vote for Trump the first go around. I voted for Trump the second go around. So those of you that are mad at me because I didn't vote, well, let's go. I'm teasing, right? So that's what happened with me. And but when I think about this whole idea of this, I forget where I was going with that. I was all excited, then you guys got me distracted. Yeah, this whole idea of nullification. So, yes, thank you. And Trump. You guys want to hear me go, don't you? Bigger government. It doesn't matter. Did government grow larger? Listen, I know you guys are going to want to fight, but come on, we going to win back freedom or not? Did government grow larger under President Trump?
Yes.
Yes, it did. Now, were there great things that he did? Without question. Unequivocally, there are things that he did. Phenomenal, right? He was a firebrand, and he is a firebrand. But it doesn't matter what administration you look at. R or D behind the name, government grew bigger with each, and say every single one over the last 100 years. It's indisputable, right? And so having a state, well, when you have a runaway train like this, it doesn't stop itself. It will not stop itself. And so you have to have states standing up with individuals that understand and say, nope, I'm holding the line here. I'm holding the line here. Right? Does that make sense? Okay? So, anyways, that was just kind of a little bit of the nuggets I want to share with you, given that we have Matt Salmon speaking with us. I'm not going to obviously take the whole time. We want to bring him in and fire us up and open this up for questions as well, but we're really excited. But I want to go back to this idea of platoons as we close out and bring that up. I hope you see the value of coming together, and I hope that when you come back next week, you'll bring someone with you. That this is designed to be fun, it's designed to be engaging, it's designed to be empowering, but it's designed to provide a real solution. This is, like as Jeff said, this is education, and that is our platform, education. But we're going to have various individuals coming in that are talking about what they're doing. And you might say, wait a second, PC? I want to be a precinct committeeman. How do I get involved? Hey, I want to go down and work with border security. How do I get involved? You're going to hear about those opportunities. This is a stage where it's the people stage. This is the people stage, and we want to give everyone access to it that's doing something special. We want to create something that's unique and really go out and provide real solution. And let me just close out with this. In the Battle of the Bulge, we're getting our tails kicked. And the U.S. military is retreating, tanks and all are retreating, and they fly in members of the 101st Airborne. Okay? In other words, it's time to take care of business. They fly in members of the 101st Airborne. Let me paint the picture for you. The tanks are moving this way, away from the enemy, and one gentleman, soldier, is standing firm as the tanks are moving toward him. He's obviously an American. And one tank stands in front of him. And you can have deep, hollow, sunken eyes, 3 days of growth. Got an M1 on one hand. He's armed and ready to go. And the tank, his own countryman, stops in front of him. And the gentleman asks the guy as he pops out of the tank, he says, hey, you looking for a safe place? And the guy in the tank says, why, yes, I am. We're out of here. And he says, well, get behind me, because this is as far as the suckers are going to go. Held the line. He held the line. And I believe that's what we need to do, is hold the line. Say, hey, this is as far as it's going to go. Like, we make a decision right now, right here, that this is as far as we're going to go. And you might look around and say, Shane, there's millions of people in Arizona. There's over 300 million people in Arizona. It's just us. Trust me on this. Things are about to happen in a big way. We're about to create something that's going to move through Arizona. We've got some phenomenal events planned that are going to move through across the country. Kirk was talking a little bit about an event that we did a couple weeks ago where we had over 700 people there. 700 people all fired up, right? These are the sorts of things that are going to happen as we bring people together and we mobilize together. But I will tell you this, our best days are ahead of us. Our best days are ahead of us. And I have a number of reasons why I believe that. Number one is because platoons are being built. But number two, I believe this is a fight that's a godly fight. When you're talking about freedom and liberty, this is a godly thing. Right? It is not okay for man to be in bondage to one to another. It's not okay for man to dictate how another man will live. It's not okay for man to intervene into another person's life, short of someone infringing on life, liberty, or property. Right? My freedom ends where your chin begins. And so long as I'm not hitting your chin, government, stay out of the way. Let the people live their lives as they see fit. That's the idea. That's freedom. That's what we're fighting for. So let's do it together. So with that said, guys, I want to bring up Matt Salmon. Matt Salmon's a good friend of mine. And many of you know the book that I wrote. He wrote the foreword for it. And did that back in 2011, 2012. He served 5 terms